Okay, so I'm doing my reflective practitioner video number 4, people, policies, practices, and patterns. And the prompt states, as you begin to grapple with the importance of context in your data use efforts, consider the following. How stable is the leadership at the district and school level? Is the leadership spread over multiple individuals at the school level? I would say that the leadership is pretty stable. And they're well respected and well liked in the community. So I think they are there to stay. My principal has been there for 7 years. So just because traditionally, like they don't usually keep principals around that long, but I hope she stays. Um, I think she does a pretty good job at maintaining the school. Um, Now our school has about 800 students. So there is a principal and then there are 2 vice principals. The vice principals are self-admitted to be very new, and both just recently graduated from their admin programs. So they, they talk about how it's a learning and growing year for them. And so because it's a learning and growing year and they're gaining experience, I would rate that probably, as a 3. I love them and they're great people and they're doing a great job, but just because, on a scale of 1 to 5, I would say it's about a 3. Um, who are the key people among the teaching staff who will help or hinder your efforts? So I am a special education teacher, and the special education department, we're not very team oriented. Everybody just kind of goes and does their own thing. Um, and there are certain reasons for that. That being, I'm RSP math. There's an RSP ELA teacher. Then there is 3 SDCs for the moderate and mild moderate class, and then there's 2 SDCs for mod severe. So the mod severe teachers aren't going to be doing half as much, they're not focusing on general ed curriculum, so I can understand why they would probably just collaborate with each other. The RSP and STC teachers, I feel, could do a lot more collaboration. There is one teacher who is established who, she seems like she is definitely willing to collaborate. Just there hasn't been a lot of opportunity for it. And then the others, we have one teacher who's going to be gone for the rest of the year because he came down with meningitis and he's in the hospital. So there's a long-term substitute teacher in his place. The other STC teacher is one of those tenured teachers that doesn't really care about his job, I guess. I don't know, but he is absent for everything. So he's more of a hindrance than a help. The other RSP teacher, she fights with everybody, so she's more of a hindrance than a help. So it's I'm really proud that I came into this weird situation, but I was able to establish good relationships with all of these people. However, getting them all into the same room is kind of like putting several divorced couples and telling them to not yell at each other. It's kind of a bad situation. As far as if I was to go outside of the special ed department, I could go into the math department. And there's a lot of help there. And they are really doing well at trying to collaborate with each other. So, and they're just testing different ways of organizing students by homogeneous grouping to see if maybe we can, boost the gate or the higher achievers, and without holding them back for the lower achievers, and just kind of trying to develop those homogeneous groups within their classrooms, and they're really focused on using the data to help that, and I think that's a really positive thing. I am speaking to my principal about it. I don't necessarily agree with the math department because right now they're just taking every Tuesday to take the lower achievers, the mid achievers, and the high achievers. They'll all go to their separate classrooms. So one classroom for the high achievers, one class for the mid achievers, and then one class for the low achievers. And then they'll work on different skills just on Tuesdays for like 30 minutes every Tuesday. I think I would like to see, if that was to happen, I think I would like to see it more consistent, because I don't think 30 minutes a week is going to be very helpful. But when I was speaking to my assistant principal, who I have a pretty good relationship with, she said, you know what? She said she didn't necessarily agree with it either, but they seemed really excited about it, and it seemed like something that could work for them as well, and as for students. So she was, and taking that into consideration, something that might work for me or another team that I've seen, might not work well with another team. So I did like that perspective. Now, the existing professional capacity of teachers and leaders to undertake new practices and institute change. Now, this is a tough one, because we have a lot of tenured teachers at our site who are very, very stuck in their ways. And I've had the opportunity to work to push in as a resource teacher and observe what they're doing in the classroom. And sometimes I agree and sometimes I disagree, and that's just how it goes. But I would definitely say that the tenured teachers, whenever there's a new idea thrown out, they could just kind of roll their eyes, and they just seem really disheartened. And they just roll their eyes and are like, yeah, whatever, I'm not doing that. And they seem to really just want to pull from their old tools. They're tired. Some of them are getting close to retirement. But I think a challenge in leadership would be to, try to motivate them, to continue to be organic teachers, that are changing and flowing with the times and with the population. Current routines and practices that support data use. So our school site is just really starting to get into data. We're using a system called iReady. The students were assessed in ELA and math at the beginning of the year using an interim assessment to find where they were performing according to the program. And then they were assessed again in December. The district is pushing it, doing lots of trainings, to try and implement this program. And there are several things that I like about it. I like that you're able to get little homogeneous groupings in the classroom, so you can know who your mid learners and your low achievers and your high achievers are pretty quickly. It identifies areas of weakness pretty quickly. So instead of beginning at the end or at the end of doing pre-assessments for every lesson, you have a pretty solid picture, so you can shorten those or you can bypass them. Because you have a pretty good picture on who can do fractions and who cannot, if that makes sense. I like that we're able to see growth in certain students. Things that I don't like are students are tired of taking tests. And so I did notice that when we took the interim in December, that we had a lot of behaviors. Students who would just rush through and just click. And then the teachers were tired, and so they just said, okay, there you go. And I had to, with my own RSP students, I had to do a lot of pooling and say, okay, no, we're going to put you in this quiet area. I'm pretty sure you didn't get stupider from last semester, like from last quarter, and showing them their scores. And like, did you really not learn anything or lose learning? And then they usually will say, no, I learned, I can do better. And then I'll reset it, and then they'll go retake it. And through that, they were able to show that they definitely jumped to their growth levels. Probably, I would say about 75% of my students made their growth, which is cool. It's not all me, which would be cool, but it's the team. But if I hadn't have, been on them for their behavior and focusing and trying to get their buy-in on how important it is, they wouldn't have shown what they know. And I imagine that that's going on in the general ed population, to some extent. because it's a lot different when I'm, a teacher's trying to harass 12 kids versus the teacher who's trying to get 35 kids to perform well on a test and do positive behaviors on a test. How do changing state and federal policy shape data use efforts at our school? So because my site unfortunately has not improved in their test scores, especially in the area of math, we have actually gone down in our test scores over the last 3 years. We are a year away from having the county come in and take over our school. And I know that a lot of the teachers are very nervous about that. And so right now, we are really working hard on pushing that data in order to try and turn our school around and trying to come up with different strategies instead of trying to do different new strategies. At least the new teachers and the middle teachers are. The older teachers are just kind of shrugging their shoulders and just going on their way. So I think that is the end of the prompt. I apologize, this video is a little bit longer than I usually do. But anyway, that's it. All right, thanks.